So today we're going to talk about Pinterest stock, and yesterday was a pretty ugly day for a lot of growth stocks out there, but in particular Pinterest had a horrible day. There was a bit of a downgrade on the stock and that led it to go down a lot further than what a lot of growth stocks were down. And yeah, we're going to talk about Pinterest going into 2022, and I think like at the moment with the share price where it is, I think it's a really good opportunity out there. So it is currently trading at $33, the ticker symbol is PINS, and this currently is a social media website or social media play, and it's a little bit different from the likes of Facebook because it doesn't really have that sort of criticism or tainted background like a Facebook. It doesn't really get criticized as much as a Facebook. So it's a bit more of a social media play without that kind of dark shadow hanging over it, I guess, which I do really like about it. It's also very different as a social media website from the likes of Facebook, because as Facebook is a bit more documentary in your life, whereas Pinterest is a bit more of sharing ideas, sharing recipes, holiday locations where to go to. So I think it's very different from them sort of platforms. So it isn't really in a competitive space directly with the likes of Facebook or Instagram. It has its own kind of little thing going on there, which I think will mean it will be still very successful in that competitive industry, and as well as that it has a lot more EU growth and still has a lot more ad revenue expansion to go on going forward, which will lead to decent amounts of revenue growth and profit going forward. Now Pinterest at the moment was founded in 2009. It is also a founder-led company, which is why I also do like this stock. It is also profitable with really insane growth rates, so you'll see here it's down at a 61p ratio. We'll look at the growth in a little bit more detail a little bit further forward, but I do like that the valuation isn't too bad, and then when you factor in the revenue growth and the profit growth it will have going forward, I really like that valuation. Now if you do look at the longer term chart of Pinterest, I've been a shareholder in Pinterest since 2019, and I did sell quite a bit of my position on this run up through 2020, but I still held some shares, and now I'm in a position where I'm actually starting to buy some more shares as this stock starts coming down in value. Now through 2020 it did have a very good run, as a lot of people were sat at home. As people sat at home, everyone was like, okay, I need something to do. Everyone was on the mobile phones more, and as well as being on the mobile phones more, one of the apps that people chose was Pinterest, because with Pinterest people were sat at home and thinking, okay, what can I do to fill in the time because I'm not at work, I've not got anything to do because I'm not going out. Okay, maybe I start learning some new things to cook, or maybe I look at changing the house. People spending more time in the house, so thinking, okay, what can I change my bedroom to look like, or furniture ideas and everything like that. So generally Pinterest did benefit a lot from the CV situation, and that's why we saw the crazy run up in share price. Now I do think there is that kind of balancing out where people are now going to be obviously on the platform a lot less, so that now has to be factored out the share price. But when I look at the share price was $85 and now the share price is down 61%. And when you look at the user activity is decreasing at the moment, as what you would expect because people are generally not at home as much. When you look at the financials though, the financials are anything but decreasing. They're just getting stronger and stronger. So I do believe this was a stock that which was due a fair correction, but I look at this now and look at the financials and go, yeah, it was due a fair correction, but now this is a overreaction for me, and I think this is a good buying opportunity in this company. Now the reason why Pinterest dropped 10% yesterday was on a downgrade. So a downgrade come out, and the reason for the downgrade is that suggestions are that the user growth will be decreasing again going into Q4, which, like I said previous, for 2021 I expect to see some user declines going on, because generally, as you know, people are back at work, people are back at going out, so they won't be on Pinterest as much. This is totally in my expectations. For me personally, there's been such a jump in users. I expected this. The point where I would be worried where users are decreasing is if we got into the likes of 2022 and 2023 and then it was still going down. That's when I'd get a little bit worried. But like I said, financially the company is still moving amazingly in the right direction and still has plenty of monetization left going forward. And as you look at monthly active users here from Pinterest, you can see that there is a massive boom up in the users, and still the user fall off hasn't been too bad considering that everyone has gone from being at home to now being back out at work. Now in the data from this downgrade, it said that the firm now expects Pinterest to report 438 million monthly active users from the fourth quarter, down from an expectation of 447 million. So if you look at Q4, this is the point they were expecting the average users to start moving back in the right direction. It's not, it's going to go down slightly a little bit more. I always would expect this to go down slightly more. I think these 4 quarters with these hard comparisons with the jumps here, I would expect the users to decrease. It would be Q1 where I would expect users to slowly start moving in the right direction. But even Q1, that could be a tricky one. Potentially Q2 could be where we see users move back in the right direction. So yeah, when we move into 2022 now, I do expect user growth to start moving back in the right direction. Just that I think these 4 quarters have been very hard comparisons for them. Now, when you dig into Pinterest's recent financials, they were very strong, and that is what I mean by the user growth will sort itself out, but when you look past that, the financials have been absolutely amazing and will continue to be amazing. So on the recent earnings report, which actually saw the stock fall off a cliff after reporting these earnings, in my opinion, were very strong. EPS was a B and revenue was a B. Now, the revenue grew 43% year over year, which is absolutely fantastic year over year revenue. And once, like I said a little bit earlier, this is a company that is also profitable and trading at a 60p ratio. Now, when you look at the monthly active users, the US monthly active users was down 10%, but international was up 4%. Now, Pinterest is a bit different to the likes of Facebook, like Instagram. A lot of their growth comes, it's not very much taken on in the US. It's a very more successful platform in the EU, and in the EU it's in the early stages of monetization. So when the user growth is in the EU or international as well, and you hardly monetize that, that is why we're going to see a sudden boom, like 43% revenue growth going forward, because they have only just started monetizing where basically a lot of the users are, and that's what will also drive a lot of profit going forward. So you look here on the period of the 3 months, you can see here 442 million, and we've jumped up to 632 million. So you see the increase of revenue here. If you look at the margins, the gross margins are pretty good. The cost of revenue here is only 126 million. So the gross margins are very good. And if you look at the difference between the income and loss from operations, last time it was 97 million at a loss, and we've moved to 98 million going forward. And that's the impact right there of how much better Pinterest are getting at monetization now. And it's pretty good amounts of profit they're starting to put in here. And you'll see that from a basic EPS point of view, it was at a loss of 18, and now it's moved up to a positive of 15 as well. And when I said earlier about this being a more of a EU or international platform, you can see here, this is the historic growth of Pinterest. So you can see they've never really taken on much user growth through the US, but internationally, this is where the user growth is, and you'll see that the users on the international side are over 3x of what it is on the United States. And this is why it's really important for Pinterest to start monetizing these international users more than the United States if they want to carry on increasing the revenue and also increasing the profit. Now, if we do look at how much they do monetize these users, you can see here in the United States, the monetization isn't too bad. So the average revenue per user is around about $5, which is not too bad, still quite fair a bit off the likes of Facebook, for example. But when you look at the area that they really need to monetize to keep growing that revenue and the profit, look at the international. It's not even up to $1 yet. So when you consider the difference between the average revenue per user in the US compared to the international, there is so much expansion to make off a lot of these monetization off the advertising of the international platform. So this has loads of way to go yet to make more money off the users. Even if the platform isn't growing as much, you think if the average revenue per user for the international side of it starts getting to $1 per user, $2 per user, they're going to make a lot more money. And the reason why this is so low is because they have basically not been advertising to the international audience historically that much. So if you look at this article here from 2019, this is actually when Pinterest actually started advertising to some countries in the EU, and these are major countries as well, the likes of Germany, Austria, Spain and Italy. These are major countries in the EU, and it wasn't even until 2019 that the advertising started in these countries. So you think about the countries that they're not advertising to yet, there's only a few recently that have been added that you're like, really, they weren't advertising there? So the more that they start advertising and start getting more average revenue per user, that's going to obviously help the company do very well. And then in this article here, it says that Pinterest ads are now available in 11 countries, including the US, UK, Australia, Canada, France, Ireland, New Zealand, and the 4 new nations. It has begun testing ads in Netherlands, Belgium, Portugal and Switzerland. So these are major countries that they weren't even advertising in. So you think about all the other countries, 11 countries, you think about how many countries they still have to start their advertising in. there's a lot of room for expansion here. So this is what Pinterest need to do, and they are doing, and that's why we're seeing really good growth here. Now, if you look at the future growth and analysts, what they're predicting, you can see the amount of profit that's starting to come in now, because they are starting to advertise and monetize where their users are at. And going forward, look at the revenue growth that starts coming in because of that. The growth is still going to be pretty good going forward, and we're going to expect a company that starts putting in 30 plus revenue growth, and as well as that, the profit is looking to nearly double every year, which is really good going as well. So the growth that this will have is pretty impressive. And like I said, it is a founder-led company. The balance sheet is really good. They've got no debt on the balance sheet. They sit on a really healthy cash position here. They have 2.3 billion cash, and it is a market cap of 23 billion. So that's very good, healthy cash wise. And like I said, the thing is, this company now is generating so much cash, that's all going to go to the balance sheet. So it might be interesting to see what Pinterest start doing with a lot of that cash as well going forward. And from a historic evaluation point of view, it's very cheap as well. If we go off the revenue point of view, if we go on enterprise to revenues, you can see here it's currently trading at a 7. It's the cheapest it has been since the likes of 2019 or the CV crash. And from a price to sales ratio point of view, it's down at an 8. Same again, it's the cheapest it's been since 2019, the drop off of the IPO, or the CV crash as well. So very cheap on the historic metrics on the revenue point of view. From a profit point of view as well, pretty cheap from here. If you look at market cap to free cash flow, you can see here that it's currently trading around about 30, and from a total enterprise value to EBITDA, it's currently trading down at a 25 as well. So combining these valuations compared to the growth of 30+% revenue growth, and that all going down to the bottom line as well, very quickly I can see this company start to increase the amount of revenue they're doing, which will benefit the bottom line. And then when it goes to the bottom line, this company is going to trade at pretty decent valuations for a company that's putting in 30+% revenue growth, and it is also very profitable with a really good balance sheet and a founder-led company. So overall, when you combine all these things with the valuation, the growth of 30+% revenue growth, as well as the combination of how much that's going to go to the profit, when it's trading at these valuations, a founder-led company, amazing balance sheet, and it's at 60 times earnings, very quickly this valuation goes very cheap, and I really like this company. I think once you get past the point of view of the user growth, which I think will sort itself out in the next 12 months, I really like this company down at $33, and for sure in the next 2 to 5 years, where do I see Pinterest going? Well, with that growth and then the combination of the profit it will make and how cheap that puts the valuation down, for me, I easily see a 2x stock in the next 2 to 5 years, and potentially more if it can keep up that 30% revenue growth. So right now, Pinterest at $33, I am a big fan of this one. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, hit the like button. If you do want to see more exclusive content from me, then join the Patreon. There's 2 exclusive videos a week on there. And if you do want to start investing, there's some links to some brokers in the description. But apart from that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in a bit.